Alright, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today, but today was day one of the 2023 Masters Mr. Olympia in Romania. So the two categories that we're going to cover today are 212 and Classic Physique, and then you guys have to wait until tomorrow for the Men's Open Bodybuilding portion of the Masters Olympia. Well, I guess it wouldn't be Men's Open, it would be Men's Masters Bodybuilding. So let's start out with 212 here. 212 was one of the divisions that I was most excited to see out of the three that we're probably going to be covering. And that was because you had Hidetada Yamagishi making his comeback in this division. And that was the big name that I was excited to see back. He's obviously started out in open bodybuilding, then he switched to 212, and then he eventually stopped competing, and now he's back here in Masters. And I also wanted to mention the top five here. So Hidetada won the show. David Henry wound up in second place. Anwar Darwish Ali Al-Balushi, that was third place. Fourth place was Steve D. Thayer. And in fifth place, you had Johnny Shreve. So interesting lineup, interesting show. I think Hidetada delivered on what people expected from him. And that was conditioning. I mean, leading up to the show, we saw a lot of updates, really, from Hidetada, posing updates and physique updates and pictures. And it was pretty evident that he was in his typical trademark shredded condition leading up to the show for weeks and weeks and weeks. He was in shape. So I wasn't super surprised to see that. But I think I am a little surprised at the result, if I'm being honest. I think a lot of people kind of agree with this, that this was a little bit of a controversial decision with him beating David Henry, who was second place. If you look at these pictures here, on the far left in the red trunks is David Henry. And I think it probably came down to conditioning, why Hidetada won. But David Henry looked, I think, significantly more muscular. I know that David has been historically a little bit lighter in the lower body than he is in the upper body, and maybe that imbalance could have contributed. But overall, I thought David Henry brought a really competitive package. And if you look at the back shots, you can see that Hidetada has, he's really lacking in that lower lat area, and David Henry is not. He's got a really complete back. His lats really come down a lot lower than Hidetada's. Hidetada kind of has like that nerve damage look that people were talking about with Big Ramy, where the lats just don't fully extend all the way down, and David Henry just looked, I think, very complete. So I will say I wasn't surprised to see Hidetada win, and I thought he was in really impressive shape. But I was really impressed by David Henry as well. And again, if you look at his lower body, I think you could argue that would be something that might have held him back. But I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. I don't think it was that controversial of a decision, but I was looking a lot at David Henry during this. And I thought he looked really, really impressive here. I think Hide did too. And like I said, my guess would be it was because of the conditioning that Hidetada brought that let him come out on top. And I will say also, I really like the touch that they did this year. They have these custom, unique trophies for the Masters Olympia. Obviously, these guys aren't getting Sandows, which I think they actually have done in the past for the Masters. But I really like this custom Olympia trophy where they've got the big Olympia O and they've got the Joe Weider statue on it. You can see it here in this picture of Hide. I thought that was a nice touch. I thought it was nice to, hopefully, if they continue this show going forward, that is like the standard trophy, like the Sandow is for Open. But I thought that was really cool, and I thought that was a nice touch as well, so I just wanted to mention that too. Now, if we go on over to Classic Physique, I think this was a lot less controversial of a result, in my opinion, if you could even argue that the 212 one is, but let me know in the comments below what you guys thought about that decision. But for the Masters Classic Physique, you had fellow Cambronero, or Alex Cambronero, taking the win here. Behind him, you had Kelvin Hind in second place, Ross Caesar in third, Luis Garcia Martinez in fourth, and in fifth place, Tom Connolly. So I think that Alex Cambronero was actually on the younger end of this 40-plus lineup, which gave him an advantage. But he's also been an Arnold Classic Physique champion relatively recently. He's been a top Olympian recently, and really back-to-back he's been at the top of those Olympia lineups in Classic Physique. So this is really no surprise to me. This is the result that I was expecting in Classic Physique, because there were really no names. Even though that lineup and that list was really long, there were really no names on the caliber of Alex Cambronero. And similar to Hidetada, a lot of the updates that I saw of Alex going into this show, he was in really impressive shape. And I was thinking the only way that he wasn't going to win this Masters Olympia was if he came in like entirely off and just saved his real peak for the main Olympia. But that was not the case, and I didn't think it was going to be the case seeing some of the recent updates of him just a couple days out. He was in shape. He was in shape here. And I think he did more than enough to win here based on the comparisons that I saw of this lineup. So after seeing how those two divisions went, those were kind of those were my two gut feelings of the guys that were going to win those divisions. I thought Alex was going to win Classic, and I thought Hide was going to win 212. My gut feeling going into the men's open portion, I think really one of the main frontrunners is going to be Phil Klahar, because in that lineup of these guys, he's the guy that's won a regular open show the most recently. And you're watching right now the most recent guest posing of him, because he hasn't done really any physique updates after this, but he did compete a little bit before this guest posing, and that was the Orlando Pro, where he beat Hassan Mustafa, who is a really big open bodybuilder. So Phil won with really good conditioning, and he's got a pretty decent shape to his physique too. He's got a pretty decent flow for a bigger, taller guy. And my gut feeling has him being the front runner here, because I really do think that in a Masters lineup like this, the ability to win an open bodybuilding show as a Masters bodybuilder recently, I think is a big advantage going into this show. So I really think the first call out is going to include Phil. I think there's going to be Fred Biggie Smalls in there. I think Kamal El Gargni will be in there. And I think Max Charles will likely be there too. And again, Josh Lenardowitz is a big wild card for me. I haven't even seen, we talked about the fact that we haven't seen many updates from him, and we haven't seen many updates from really many of these guys. But Josh has been like total radio silence, and I haven't even seen confirmation that he's in Romania right now for the competition. So right now, my feeling is just towards Phil Klahar, Fred Biggie Smalls, Kamal El Gargni, and Max Charles as being the four main frontrunners. But I'm leaning towards Phil Klahar as the favorite here. Now, speaking of those other guys, we did recently get another update from Kamal. So we talked about the first one. I believe we talked about it in the last video, the most muscular update. But this one, he's giving an abs and thighs. Well, just an abs, but you can see just the kind of shape that he's in. This is what he's known for. He's known for consistent conditioning. He's known for bringing it like every time you see him step on stage. And you can see just shredded obliques, shredded serratus, shredded abs. And this was, I believe, 2 or 3 days out from the show, and we haven't seen anything more recent than this. But I expect him to be in that first call. I expect him to be a factor here. And based on what we saw with 212 in Hidetada, it seems like conditioning is going a long way with these judges. It's going a long way at this show. So a guy like Phil Klahar that beat a guy like Hassan Mustafa based on conditioning, or a guy like Kamal that's known for being very consistent with conditioning, I feel like these are the guys that are probably going to be towards the higher end of this spectrum as far as the favorites to win. But I guess we'll find out tomorrow. Not really a whole lot to go on. Like I said, in terms of physique updates, nothing from Josh, nothing from Max. I haven't seen anything more recent from Fred. I just checked. So it looks like we're just going to have to wait and see, prejudging tomorrow, what's going on. And my gut feeling just kind of also tells me that we're not going to see every name that's on that list actually show up. I just have a feeling some of these guys aren't going to be there. But I do want to say, overall, props to the Masters Olympia. Props to Jake Wood and Dan Solomon for bringing this thing back. I mean, it's been gone for over a decade. I think it's exciting to have it back. I think as much as we talk about the lineups being potentially a little underwhelming, I think the production of this show, from what I've seen so far, is great. I thought the attention to detail was great. I thought the trophies and the awards and just the prestige of the way they made this thing seem, and not to mention the prize money. I just think overall the fans are glad to see this thing back. I think the bodybuilders, the competitors, they're glad to see this competition back and have this opportunity at an older age to compete on an Olympia caliber stage in a Masters division again. And I think me, as a fan of bodybuilding, I'm happy to see this thing back, because it's a nice little warm-up, like a preview of the Olympia, a little teaser, an appetizer, if you will. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below about what the result tomorrow is going to be for the men's open portion of the Masters Olympia. Now, next up in the news, I just want to give a side-by-side here, because we got a 10 weeks out physique update from Samson Dauda and a 10 weeks out physique update from Nick Walker. Now, Samson only posted a most muscular, so I only want to put the most muscular side by side of Samson and Nick, because based on what we saw at the Arnold Classic, I think Samson is going to move up into that conversation for top 3 at the Olympia this year, where Nick was. So I think there's going to be a rematch in a battle between him and Nick. Obviously, he beat Nick at the Arnold Classic, but Nick beat him at the Olympia. And I think at the Olympia this year, it's going to be a much closer competition between the two. So I think these are two guys that are really going to be in kind of the same space at the Olympia. These are two guys that are really going to be battling it out in the same call-outs. I think they're going to be next to each other again. And I'm telling you guys, these next 10 weeks are going to go by like just incredibly quickly. Before you know it, we're going to be saying 6 weeks out from the Olympia, 4 weeks out, 2 weeks out, then it's going to be the week of, and it's going to go by like very quickly. So I think when you compare these two most muscular shots, obviously slightly different lighting, obviously slightly different angle, you've got to be really impressed by both guys. Obviously, they're both freaks in their own right. Mass monsters, ton of size, ton of fullness, ton of roundness in this pose. And that's why I'm excited to see these two guys battle it out again at the Olympia, because they are two very different physiques, but they really bring what bodybuilding fans enjoy. They bring the size, they bring the density. This is just what people like to see. But I think with Samson, you've got to be impressed by the 10 weeks out, not only the size that he carries. I'm told he's still around 330 pounds as of this update, but the detail that he has at this size. I mean, you can see striations in his pecs that you don't really see in Nick's pecs yet. You can see deep cuts in Samson's quads that you just don't really see in Nick's quads yet. You've got really deep separation in Samson's legs that you're not really seeing yet from Nick. And it's not a knock on Nick. I was looking at these two updates, and I was just really impressed with how good Samson looked here. And I think really when you break it down, he's taller than Nick, so that's a factor, but he's significantly bigger, heavier, and he's more detailed right now. It just is what it is. It's impressive, and I was looking at a post on his page earlier. I think this was a day ago that he posted this. December 2022, which was last year's Olympia, side by side, and obviously we don't know how correctly these images are scaled or if the lighting or filters is different, whatever. But December of 2022, which was the Olympia 2022, and March 2023, which was the Arnold Classic he just won. So just a few months in between. And look at this significant difference in his physique. So that's what we talk about with Samson, is he's got this ability to rapidly improve, and that's what he's been doing over the past year to 18 months. So think about that if he was able to do that between December and March last time around. Think about the improvements he would be able to make between March and November this time around, because the Olympia is like a month earlier. For as much as Samson is able to do with so little time, that's a pretty significant amount of time for him to be better significantly at the Olympia than he was at the Arnold Classic that he just won. So I think when you look at this kind of rapid transformation, this is the reason why people have Samson in the conversation as being a potential Mr. Olympia winner this year. Not just top 3, but people are talking about him potentially winning, and I think this is why. You look at what he was able to do at the Arnold Classic, you look at the guys he was able to beat, you look at the shape he was in, and you look at how much he closed the gap from the Olympia to the Arnold, and you got to wonder, what if he does that same level of transformation now for this Olympia, and he comes in by that same margin better than the Arnold at the Olympia? I think he's going to be a very, very dangerous guy at the Olympia this year, and I'm excited to see this play out on stage. So that's going to wrap it up for the video, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments section below about all the stories we talked about today. Make sure you like and subscribe for more videos just like this one, and click that bell notification icon if you have not already to be notified every time I upload so you don't miss any of the bodybuilding news. And as always, I love you guys, appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at Nick Strength Power, my Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power, my secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.